APAC is rapidly scaling healthcare AI led by a shift to hybrid infrastructure and rising Gen AI investment. With spending set to double by 2026, the region is moving fast toward hybrid care. Joining us are David Ireki from Boomi and Sinisa Nikolic from Lenovo. David and Sinisa, what makes hybrid infrastructure especially effective for healthcare?
It really is an ideal mix. And what do I mean by that? Hybrid. You can keep clinical and patient data on premise. Why is that? Because clinical data, patient data, personal data needs to meet some very, very strict compliance regulations. And then with a hybrid perspective, you have an on-premise piece. You then can move into the cloud for more scalable AI, collaboration, faster innovation. And in fact, when you think about all of this, the healthcare sector alone generates a huge chunk of global data today, roughly about 30%, give or take. And healthcare data volumes are forecast to grow nearly 40% year on year as we go further forward into 26 and 27. Why is that important? When you're looking at hybrid infrastructure, not moving data will save money.
Well, hybrid infrastructure is effective for healthcare because it lets organizations keep sensitive clinical data on premise while using the cloud for AI, analytics, and patient-facing services. IDC expects 80% of patients to use hybrid care by 2027, so providers need this balance of security and scalability. But hybrid environments are complex, and that's why a unified integration layer becomes essential. And Boomi helps turn that complexity into clarity by connecting those legacy systems, cloud apps, and AI models and agents into one governed data flow. And an example is Kailara Aged Care, where we integrated HR, finance, and clinical systems to free staff to spend more time with residents. So hybrid works because it reflects how healthcare actually operates, that is distributed, sensitive, and increasingly AI-enabled.
What barriers are preventing healthcare providers from moving faster from pilots to full Gen AI deployment?
So healthcare isn't slowed by AI models, it's actually slowed by fragmentation, and that remains the biggest bottleneck. So Ernst & Young highlighted that siloed systems, uneven data quality, and limited AI talent as top barriers in Singapore as an example. And across APAC, only 30% of workflows are optimized for generative AI at scale. So that's why the next breakthrough in healthcare won't come from a new model. It'll actually come from connecting the models that we already have today. And providers also need confidence that AI is explainable, auditable, and aligned with clinical guidelines like Singapore's AI and healthcare framework. Because when data is scattered across EHRs, diagnostics, insurers, scaling safely becomes impossible. So if you fix the fragmentation, generative AI will move from pilots to production much faster.
A lot of healthcare organizations today simply aren't data ready. Data is fragmented, it's reasonably inconsistent, it's not governed well, and it's really ready for enterprise-wide AI development and usage. At the same time, a lot of institutions lack the right mix of security, compliance, as I spoke about in the last answer, and some life cycle management. The other piece here that we don't often talk about, but it's so important, is significant projects get clear cross-functional sponsorship. So what do I mean by that? Cross-funding, paths to deployment, and the back-end legacy IT stacks often can't handle the compute or the storage, again, as we were talking about, or these demands that are being driven by AI and generative AI deployments.
Now, if you can also share with us what operational risks arise as healthcare systems adopt more AI-driven tools, and how can this be addressed?
It's the third most targeted sector for ransomware and cyber attack. So here we're talking about cybersecurity. And it jumped from I think it was 7th back in 2003, upwards of now being third, nearly targeting second most targeted sector for cyber attack. Organizations particularly when you're looking at healthcare. I would show you my telephone today and I'd show you some healthcare apps that I have on mine. But they're adopting more and more connected devices, distributed systems, edge devices, edge workloads. So these what's termed attack surfaces are growing explosively. When you look at those sorts of external threats, AI adds a few more risks: data poisoning, model drift, unvalidated outputs. So if you're not actually checking output from the generative AI responses, these are not, these become unvalidated. So you need to look very closely at that, right? And any of these can undermine clinical decisions, even without a data breach.
Yes, so as healthcare systems adopt more AI tools, the biggest operational challenge becomes governance, making sure that every AI-assisted decision is explainable, auditable, and safe. And clinical teams, they need confidence that AI recommendations align with things like Singapore's MOH AI and healthcare guidelines, especially around transparency, bias controls, and patient data rights. And a common example of an AI agent is supporting diagnostic triage. So before it can be trusted, it needs clear confidence scoring, escalation rules, and a full audit trail so clinicians can see how the conclusion was reached. And hybrid environments make this even more complex because AI often has to interact with on-premise EHRs, imaging systems, lab data, and other cloud systems. But Boomi provides that governance layer that ensures that every agent action is tied to clean data, enforced policies, and we have consistent oversight. Because ultimately, AI should return time to clinicians, not add risk.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, David and Sinisa.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Again, those were David Irecki, Chief Technology Officer of Boomi, and Sinisa Nikolic, Director and Segment Leader of HPC and AI for Asia Pacific Infrastructure Solutions Group at Lenovo. For more news, please visit healthcareasiamagazine.com.